Hello, Fearless Gamers, and welcome to the Fearless Game Podcast. I'm Matt the Vet, and today I'm joined by...
James the Wildcard.
And that's it. Again, we assimilated the other two.
Yes, it's what we do.
Yep. Sometimes we assimilate them, sometimes we spit them back out, sometimes they come back through mitosis.
Yes, why not?
So how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing?
I'm good. My wrist is killing me. But other than that, tried my first airbrushing for the first time.
Cool. Are you like a convert and go, brushes are for noobs?
No, I'm going, brushes make painting take smoothly easier.
Yes, it's true.
Like, it was beautiful. I managed to do 2 drop pods and 5 guys with, 2 to 3 coats.
Sounds good. Sounds like it.
Yep.
Good.
So, look, they came out beautiful. There's a couple of niches on the first drop pod because I was just learning how to use the airbrush. But once I got the hang of it, they started coming out awesome looking.
That's good. Good.
Yep. And I've got some rumors coming out of the rumor mill. Very industrial sized.
Yeah, they as they tend to do and tend to come from.
Yep. The latest rumor of who's writing it, and it is personal, and it's from a person who has supposedly personally admitted to being the author of the new codex, and that is Phil Kelly.
There you go.
To be honest, I'm not too excited about it, but that's just me.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I have yet to get excited over an author of a codex. It's just a guy or lady. Well, I don't know if there's a lady author ever, but
there is. She wrote the Tyranid book.
It's just some person who's gonna put the whole book together. It's like, whatever. I just want the book. I don't care who wrote it. Personally.
Actually, I'm not sure if the person who did the guard and the Tyranid is a girl or not. I forget. If anyone out there knows, correct me.
Yeah.
But I do know that the writer of the Tyranid book also wrote the Imperial Guard book. One thing that I will bring up that my concerns, slightly, if the rumor is true about Phil Kelly, is one that Bell of Lost Souls brought up as a quote-unquote con for having the same author write the book over and over again, and that is failing to see one's faults in the previous editions. A lot of people felt that's what happened with the Dark Angels Codex. The writer was the same for 3 editions. He was just like, what are you talking about? It's perfect the way it is, and was just writing it as he sees and not really looking at what would be considered the faults of the book.
Right.
My one concern that I have with Kelly is I just listed fine. This is just me personally. I'm not, anyone who wants to disagree with me can disagree with me. But I feel that a lot of times he throws in stuff that's completely useless just to say he threw something new into the book. And I find if he's not really into it that day, he puts out a subpar performance on his codexes.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I mean, with me personally, I think any unit has its place. Even the old Ethereal had its place if you wanted to lose. No, but if you it had its place in some weird combo list that had a big plan. It's with me though, it's just there's favorite authors and there's least favorite authors in anything ever, and it's just like I just feel, aside from the fact that having one person do the same flavor over and over and over again, which can just make them I can almost see being a little bit uninspired or just not really seeing, like you said, the faults. Aside from that, there's plenty of testing that goes on and checks and things that I think doesn't really matter anymore who writes the book. Some people like now the only place where it really kind of does matter is how the fluff is written. But I haven't really had a problem with fluff. You know, I mean, some of it was considered a bit radical, like the Eldar Codex, but the fluff I still enjoy. The rules-wise, I think rules-wise and unit-wise, with all the testing that goes on, you're really not going to have an issue where it's kind of like, just throw it in there, you know, give it a mohawk, it's good.
Fluff-wise, that's the only part of the 4th edition Codex that I would allow Phil Kelly's excuse of editorial mandate to apply, because I could see them going, no, don't change their story, we just want it to be the exact same.
Yeah.
And he did step up his game a little bit in the Chaos Marine Codex with that, though I will admit some of the fluff was a little confusing to me. Like, a lot of Space Marine chapters just appeared out of nowhere just so they could go evil for the stories.
Yeah,
and I was like,
I
what? Wait a minute, the Judgment? Who are the Judgment? They've never been listed before.
Yeah, that's the thing that was with 40K fluff of any race, not just Imperial stuff, but you know, with the Space Marines and Imperial Guard Regiment.
Yeah.
It's like, who are those guys? It's like, where did you pull this out of your hat? Which is totally fine. That's the whole reason why it is like, you know, you can DIY it. So it's like, here's a chapter we made up bit and go, but you have in one book, it's like these guys are pure, strong, noble. You know, there was a falling, but it's not very common. And another book, it's like, they're dropping like flies.
Yeah,
like,
I noticed that, like, when I was reading the book, I was like, what? Wait a minute, according to this book, half the Space Marine legions are evil now.
Well, half the legions are evil.
No, I mean, like, after the heresy.
Oh, yeah. It's like...
I was like, wait. So I'm just going through the Space Marine book. I'm like, are they evil? Are they evil?
Yeah, it turned from a rarity, which is still is meant to be in the fluff. Like, Space Marines just don't turn evil because, like, you know, well, today, I know it's chaos. It's not... But the Chaos book made it feel like that.
Which was odd, because I always felt, because since they do have their own Mechanicum and all that, I was always under the impression they were just taking cultists and turning them into Astartes.
There's a process they go by actually making new Space Marines, and it was covered pretty well on the Ultramarine novels, where they actually go into, somehow they end up inside the Eye of Terror on Iron Warrior's planet. And it's like, I think it would be Iron Warrior's planet. And not to spoil anything, story-wise, for why they're there and what they do on the encounter, but basically, what they do is they take, not so much cultists, depending on the age of the cultist, but they just take people, youngins. They just basically call a whole population, put them in these weird, demon-y, techie type of thing. It's basically like almost like a womb, like a real womb person, but it's mechanical at the same time.
Okay.
With usually either their own retrieved gene seed if it's not too destabilized, or they just kill the gene seed and throw it in and say, who cares, as long as you become a Stardate. And they do it in mass because it's a high failure rate. And it produces like basically skinless ogre. If it goes wrong, according to that one, at least there's one way of doing it. In other ways, they get some Space Marines out of the deal. So, but also it's the idea of, you know, you had the original legions fell, and you had some chapters that either went renegade completely, or companies that got lost and became renegade, or corrupted. And it's like, but it still works. You don't need to have a high recruitment rate, because these guys have been existed for at least 10,000 years.
Yeah.
But it's like, nope. You hear about Bob's chapter? Yeah, I went to Chaos today. Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, I was just sitting there going like, so you mean to tell me that the only way the Chaos Legions get more dudes is if someone goes evil?
It's like the way they made it sound, which is kind of like, come on.
Yeah, I was just like, no, come on, you got to give us another way, because we can't expect, because at this point it's going to end up being just the Black Templar, the Space Wolves, the Blood Angels, the Dark Angels, the Ultramarines, and everyone with a special character will be the only chapter left at this rate, the way the book describes it.
And it's like, come on, really, guys?
It's like, they'll all be sitting there going, guys, come on! And we'll be wondering why Imperium hasn't lost yet.
Yeah. It's just weird. Like, that's the thing with the 40k fluff. Another thing that, like, 40k is a very grandiose, over-the-top setting.
Yeah.
So having, like, worlds be blown apart and whole populations succumb to chaos, it's doable. You know, it's not like, well, there goes the universe. But everything, like, there's over the top, and then there's, like, the super mysterious where you don't get a straight answer. It's like half the things are, like, super mysterious now that you don't get a straight answer. Even made the Tau mysterious and that you don't get a straight answer. It turns to these theories, which we don't know, but, like, instead of being how it used to be, where it's like, we don't really understand how these theories do it, here are theories. They put, like, a dark overtone to it, and, like, the way they appear has a dark overtone to it. It's kind of like, come on, this is another riddle in your book of riddles. It's just like, I don't need this.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. It's crazy. It's definitely a crazy thing. There's talk of new bikes for Eldar, looking very similar to the Dark Eldar in terms of how the character is positioned on the bike.
Interesting.
And weapon options, which this is where I call the BS on. I highly doubt this is actually true, but it's rumored that the bikes can now be armed. Let's see. Oh no, it's a fighter. Sorry, the fighter is very similar to the Dark Eldar.
Yeah. But
its weapon systems can possibly include a shrinking cannon, a scatter laser, a distortion cannon. The last, I may be wrong, because, very few items get the distortion cannon.
Yeah.
And a smart bomb, which is believed to be like a distortion bomb, which I guess is just basically a D-cannon, but a one-time use thing.
Right.
Though I would kind of expect the Eldar to be able to have, like, similar bombs set up like the Tau, since they're technologically on the same level.
Yeah, well, yes and no. The Eldar are so, like, mystical tech. Like, they're the most mystical tech of the universe. The Necrons are the most advanced tech of the universe.
Let's correct. The Orcs are the most mystical. I'm sorry.
The Orcs aren't the most mystical. Orcs are the most rules-breaking when it comes to tech. The Orcs' technology is very crude. It's their belief. So, like, their tech is very crude and basic.
But it's so magical, it works.
Well, I wouldn't call it tech magical. You know, like, it's blasting of beams of magic beams. It's shooting. If the gun is just not jamming because the Orcs like, it's got big DACA. And who knows how that'll be in the next bit. But
chances are that'll be that they're super technologically creative and they make their guns work, and they just don't know that they know how to make their guns work.
Yeah. Which is kind of, they put two sticks together and eventually it makes fire. So they're getting there. But like the Eldar are I said most mystical because they grow with song. They grow with songs.
Well, the song is just a way to psychically tune themselves to the Wraithbone.
Yeah, and then it forms, it shapes due to the song.
And then they can make it whatever color they want.
Yes, apparently.
They're the only race that can do metal and non-metal at the same time.
So if I play this note sharp, it's going to come out purple. But if I do this one in black, then half of it will be silver. Yes, but it's like
it's awesome. I'll be getting more detail into that when we have a confirmed release day of the Eldar. I'll do a whole Eldar primer thing like I did with the Dark Angels.
But I love the fingers, don't get me wrong. It's a cool idea, but I can kind of see why I don't have this grow on the fly type of bomb system. It's just, I would think they would introduce a whole new weapon system for their fight,
Yeah.
Nothing crazy, just something different. Like, for example, the Tide and their fighter, the Tau fighter, got a quad ion cannon, which is just different and new. And the Riptide got a heavy version of things that exist already. So I think the Eldar should get a heavier version on their fighter.
I'm curious to see what the supposedly this new tank doesn't have the wing set up like the other Falcons.
I'm confused, and then it's just like a little torpedo.
Yeah. Let's see. Where could I get because I had a brief description of the chassis at one point, being similar to a wave serpent, but the pod's in the front or something. Fire does have a fork nose. Overall, the life is a little. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Again, they're still talking about the Let's see. The pods and the wings are engines, and yes, this fighter does have a forked nose. Overall, the length of the. This is odd. This guy spells it very weird, so I'm not going to even bother trying to pronounce it. But he says it's a little longer than the Wave Serpent chassis, and the cockpit is located in the nose of this particular design, which is weird because the Wave Serpent isn't that much longer than a Falcon. I think it's like a quarter of an inch longer.
And this is for the fighter?
They're very bland about this thing. They really don't say much. But I'm thinking it's the fighter. Rules information is one big thing is a lot of people are coming out with like this really huge grand scale release of, let's see, seeing an Eldar Farsphere sprue, and if we're expecting new jet bikes, a new walker, a Farsphere, 2 new flyers, a new tank chassis, and more than this release will reveal, the Dark Eldar release will and more, then this release will rival the Dark Eldar release back in the 5th edition. And the real issue remains, though, no 6th edition release has been this large. So by looking at the trends, this much cannot be coming. So they're basically going, 6th edition hasn't released this much stuff before, so how could this possibly all be true?
The 6th edition also didn't have really big redo. Like, the Tau is their biggest, and in all honesty, biggest redo. And the thing is, they only introduced 2 new units. You know, the fighter and the bomber, I consider one just like flyer type units. And the Riptide. And Pathfinder's got a redo, and the crew just got better. Like, everything's already laid out for the Tau. The Eldar have a lot they can still bring to the table when you look at their fluff. So, it's just looking at it as I see no reason they couldn't theoretically do this. And in all honesty, if they're, let's say, resculpting or redoing a particular set, that's not that far-fetched to include in amongst new things. So it really in theory just be 2 or 3 whole new brand new things and a bunch of just dating.
The one thing that I'm very doubtful on is the plastic Wraith Guard, because if they were planning on making Wraith Guard plastic, then why'd they even bother doing the fine cast? Yeah,
I doubt plastic Wraith Guard as well. I mean, if it's my view is if it's fine cast, it's not going to change.
Very rarely, unless the only way they could even possibly think of doing a plastic group is if they made another Wraith Guard-like unit and did the box set thing. But even still, with that, people argue that you then bring up the Mutilators and the Obliterators. They could have made them into a plastic kit, made them just build one or the other, but they didn't. They made them each separate fine cast models.
Yeah, but I think the Mutilator and the Obliterator, that's one example of that. But then you have the Immortals, who went from pewter to plastic.
Yep.
Because you could also make the Death Mark between the two. So I think it really depends, and I think the fact that Wraith Guard are flying cast now, it probably won't come with... I totally doubt the Immortals were never made fine cast, if I remember. They were just pewter, and they were stock made, and it came out in plastic, so...
Yes.
It would be cool, but it's not going to happen.
No. But it would be cool, because I want more Wraith Guard, so I could use my Warlock Wraith Lord.
I saw a cool thing on the internet, Fearless Gamers. If you like Wraith Guard, Wraith Lord, and stuff, I don't know if they still make it. This is actually a while I saw this, but you can check out their epic Eldar Titans. They're around the Wraith Guard size.
Oh, the Games Workshop Epics?
Yeah, if they still make Eldar Epic Titans, that thing is roughly...
I think they still do.
Roughly Wraith Guard size. I saw somebody use some of those Titans to represent Wraith Guard. It was pretty cool.
I know the Specialist games are pretty much the only pewter things that are still available.
Yeah.
Aside from, they did indicate that Cypher is still available because they said you could use them for either a Chaos Sergeant or a Dark Angel Captain, depending on how you feel about the his position in the Dark Angel's setup.
Yeah, which is another answer that just ruins Dark Angel for me. Not ruins because I don't like him, but because, oh, see, Cypher's really a good guy. Stop it.
Well, I don't... If he was really a good guy, he wouldn't be helping the Chaos Fallen out.
Yeah,
the way he has.
He wouldn't be destroying planets, basically. Putting them in
and stealing gene seeds and such.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, the Cypher model is cool. I would have no problem taking that model and painting up to represent a cool Dark Angel guy. It just wouldn't be Cypher.
Yeah, though what I plan, if I ever feel like spending the money on it, I plan on picking one up to be a Chaos Lord.
Yeah.
Just so I could say, hey, there he is, and if I was playing a Dark Angels game, I could say, hey, I'll give you an extra victory point for the game if you kill him because it's the Cypher model.
Yeah.
But yeah, they still do make they are still available to order the the Warlock and the Phantom Titan. They're $35 a piece.
Yeah, it's a little pricey, but if you're looking for something, let's say, different to spice it up, maybe you want to have like a leader of the Wraith Guard squad, even though there's no real leader type, at least not now. You want it to look different. I've seen it done. It just helps spice it up. I've also seen it done to help because they made like a Wraith army in terms of even everything's painted up with Wraith Guard colors, like they're very much the Wraith Bone colors, to represent like everybody was dead. But like the small little concept, it was just a cool little concept, and that's where it came from. And it looked cool. I forget the exact scaling of them, but they definitely fit in line. And that's something else to think about, at least as a conversion model for something. Just check out Epic. Because some of the really big war machines are small enough that they fit in to represent a Sentinel or an Obliterator, and then you can just like doing stuff and mash onto it, and you got a cool looking Obliterator if you want something different. So it's worth checking out.
And if you ever want like cool statues for terrain, Inquisitor.
Yes.
Inquisitor has some, because they're about 6-7 inches tall.
Yeah, they're 54 millimeters for sure.
Yeah.
And they just make great. I mean, I don't know anybody who plays Inquisitor. I look at the rules, and they weren't bad, but it's just like, why would you play Inquisitor now when you can play Deathwatch or, I
heard that it was like trying to relive Necromunda, but failing at it. Yeah,
I mean, but the rules were, especially the stat line setup, is very similar to how Dark Heresy and all is. So it's like, the Dark Heresy is just much more streamlined and easier to go with.
Yeah.
Available. So you can still use those models to represent characters on that, but they also make great statues.
Oh yeah, like there's a really cool Space Marine and a Adaptus Judge that you paint them up in the right stone colors, they'd look like awesome, like tribute statues.
Yeah. And thinking of the role-playing game, here's a thought, and I want to know what you think on this. Because we have, first off, Only War, which is Imperial Guard, has got some expansion books coming out. One of them is to let you play more different regiments and I think build your own regiment, which is pretty cool if you want to play an Imperial Guard thing. The Chaos one, Black Crusade, has 3 of the 4 Chaos gods in book form. So if you want to present a disciple of Tzeentch, it has a whole book of fire, which is what it's called. So you can present different paths you can take to follow Tzeentch. They have everyone but Nurgle so far. I don't know if they're out yet, but I'm pretty sure the Tzeentch one's out because it's the first one done. So I thought that was pretty cool. All of them are still getting some upkeeps.
Just wait a second. I just randomly saw a picture of one of the Inquisitors, and the Inquisitor's carrying a shrinking catapult.
Yeah.
She's carrying a shrinking pistol.
Yeah, that's an Inquisitor. They'll do that if they're a little bit...
Lady Gina or Chell. And I'm like, wait a minute. How can you even use that? Because Eldar tech is rigged so only Eldar can use it.
She probably made... Well, Rise of Inquisitors have Eldar tech sometimes, and they they don't just take it, they get into them.
Yeah, that is true. I don't know much about this character's history, so she may have been presented with.
In fact, there are some. I know in the Grey Knight's book, there's an Order of the Inquisitor that I think has like all their soul stones. Like they radical Xenos Inquisitors are my favorite because it's not so much. Yeah, I got possessions and for that, or I use demon weapons. I have all this crazy Indiana Jones-esque tech because I deal with aliens.
Yep.
It's like I have a shield generator, I got a soul stone, I got a heck, I got a Gauss Slayer somehow. Don't ask me how, but it's just like I got all this stuff, and it's like for me the radical Xenos Inquisitor is like a D&D adventurer. It's like, look at this awesome +1 saber. Like it's pretty much how it works.
Though I have to admit I find that the whole Death Watch and all that stuff is a really nice change for any D&D player who's looking to get more of their tabletop gaming into their role-playing experience.
Yeah,
and it's so easy to incorporate the models into the game.
Oh yeah, because it's just fun, and it's really a cool excuse to kit bash your own model.
Yep. Sadly, I didn't do that for your game. I just took a Terminator librarian that had so many holes in it that I got a replacement, and I just painted it black.
Yes, but I mean, like, you can kit bash. You don't even have to do anything crazy unique. You can just paint it up like Deathwatch, dude. The captain's playing. And Deathwatch is really fun. The cool thing about Deathwatch is that they also have rules for Grey Knights that can fit in either Dark Heresy or in Deathwatch, which is kind of cool. I mean, if you're a Grey Knight in Dark Heresy, you're basically the win button, though, so it's not really fair. But they have all Rogue Trader and Dark Heresy and Deathwatch. They have the Black Crusade for Chaos. They got Only War from Imperial Guard. Now, here's what I wanted to bring up earlier. I think they should do either a Tau book or an Eldar Aspect Warrior RPG, or both.
I think they should do both.
Yeah,
and then do an
race
one.
And so is the Eldar. I just think both races have a very good chance to create an interesting party of basically role players of representing either different Aspect Warriors or Fire Warrior versus Pathfinder event, maybe getting a stealth suit or a crisis suit in there with you. And I think like both are set up pretty well, where you could have the rule set, the way you do things, the way you advance, work for you, and just be an interesting break from human.
What would be really interesting would also be throwing in a Spirit Seer so someone can get a Wraith Guard in the party.
Well, yeah, I just put Aspect Warrior, but I would imagine Aspect Warrior and then, like, Farseer would be there. Which would be
well, the only one that I would say it'd probably be the least likely to be there would be a Farseer, because they're more focused on working out the Craft World's woes, but I could see a Warlock chilling.
Yeah, but I could see a Warlock and then becoming a Farseer just to have the Farseer, because some Farseers do go out and do things. Yeah. Just to represent, like, this is a special task force for Eldar.
And the Ranger. The Ranger would be awesome, because
the Ranger would be your sniper. Taking your sniper class. The Dark Reaper would be your I take it and shoot stuff really fast.
Yep, the Warp Spider would be your fast attack.
Oh, I love to be a Warp Spider. The only one that wouldn't fit too well and probably wouldn't be played anyway are Shining Spears.
Yeah.
I'm mounted.
They need a total revamp, in my opinion.
I love the Shining Spears. And if you look at the capabilities, if you build a list fight with them, they will just railroad through anything they charge into. They're so points heavy.
That's actually one thing that I'm a little upset with some of the rumors with the Eldar, is that there's going to be, it's either a new Jet Bike character or just a new Shining Spear character, and it's Narud the Fireheart. And he was basically, for anyone who doesn't know, he is the leader of the Samahan craft world. And I do not like that he's changed, that I do not like the idea of him being just a Shining Spear character, because I liked his original concept, which is, for anyone who doesn't know, he was on a he converted a Viper into a chariot. And so he rode into battle on a Viper. And so instead of the gun turret on the back, it was just a chariot. So it was a Viper that functioned like a chariot. And I was like, why can't they just keep it that way? He could be a Shining Spear character for all I want, but give him his Viper. Don't give him a stupid jet bike.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I would just prefer the Phoenix Lords for the Shining Spears.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to have an aspect warrior special character, it better be the Phoenix Lord.
Or if anything, like, this is gonna be something that I bring up in my top 10 what I want to see in the Codex again, so this is going to be a repeat for everybody, is I want it, if anything, an explanation as to why the Warp Spider and the Shining Spear Phoenix Lords are not around.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't give them to us, that's fine, but tell us what happened.
I know it's a Warp Spider because of one of the Apocalypse data sheets for them, which basically represents kind of like the missing... It kind of like, when I think the Warp Spider X-Force has a special title, as if that was the title of the Phoenix Lord, and it lets them bolster and shoot this awesome big pie plate of doom on infantry, which basically rips them to shreds. But I think the rumor of the Warp Spider is thought he's either lost in the warp, or he's permanently in the warp to allow the Warp Spider such quick teleportation through battles. Like I did hear a story once. I've tried to re-find the story, but I can't find it anywhere. But I did read once that it was supposedly he tried to teleport, and he just never came back. Yeah, and the rumor is either he's lost and he's dead, or his essence is just floating in the warp, constantly dodging flying, or he teleported and never came back because he realized, hey, if I become a constant for my fellow warp spiders, I'll have an easier time.
Yeah.
Just by choice, like hanging out in a bubble of a warp spider.
So we don't know, and it would be nice to know. I mean, the Eldar aren't that mysterious and stuff like that, and I'm sure there has been one rogue aspect warrior that sat down with an Imperial Inquisitor once and said, oh yeah, this is where he is.
Of course, it has to be. I mean, if the Harlequins will allow Inquisitors entrance into a black library.
Yeah.
I mean,
granted, they're watched like a hawk, but they're still allowed in there.
I'm sure the Inquisitor can go, hey, so what's the deal with the Shining Spears? Well, you see, the Phoenix Lord is a douche, and he just never shows up.
I know the Phoenix Lord. He was a douche.
Exactly. Like,
that's why we wrote him out of history. We don't know what happened to him, and frankly, we don't care, because he's a douche.
Exactly. Like, I'm sure.
And of course, everybody wants the Solitaire to come in.
Yeah, Solitaire would be cool. I mean, I just hope if the Warp Spiders and Shining Spears don't get a Phoenix Lord, I hope they at least get... Well, they're all going to get revamped, I'm sure, but I hope especially the Shining Spears, because the Warp Spiders honestly have no problem with how they act.
Oh, they're probably the most popular aspect warrior to use in the Eldar right now.
Yeah, they're my favorite aspect warrior. The Shining Spears, I think, are cool, and really, I've seen them in precise lists, like very specific lists for them, and they just steamroll, because, like, hey, my lance is awesome on the charge, I just steamroll through everything.
And unlike regular lances, they don't lose them after they lance.
Exactly. So if they just keep the don't lose lance rule and make them, I think the big problem was their points were so heavy. It's kind of like they're good, but they're not really worth that many points. Like,
it's sort of like with the Shadow Specters. They're good, but the point cost that you're going for isn't worth what you're getting.
Yeah, I think part of the Shining Spears point cost problem is their point costs were more done in line with how jet bikes and bike type things were point costed 2 editions ago.
Yeah.
So I mean,
that's again one of those things. You know, they just said basically when it was written for 4th edition, they went just screw it, let's just copy and paste it.
Yeah, and so they deserve something. I hope. Here's my one problem with Codex season. It really hasn't been that big a deal because Sergeant Neyman is not in the Dark Needles Codex. He was 2 editions ago, but he's not now because he's dead.
Yep.
Like, so in the fluff of Eldrad, it says he's basically disappeared and gone.
Yes.
I was back then. I would love to have him back, but I would rather have a special character Farsi that is not dead, in theory.
Well, what I was thinking, what I thought would be a cool concept if they basically want to keep the Eldrad model and really keep the same dude, literally... What?
He's an awesome model. He's like the best Farsi model out there.
But heck, I own one. But what you do is you literally do you do the Exarch style with them, because it is said, for those who don't know anything about Eldrad, during one of the 12th Black Crusade, when Abaddon was getting those Blackstone fortresses, and he was attacking through the Eye of Terror at the Cadian Gate, Eldrad and a bunch of Eldar, I'm pretty sure it was the Cadian Gate that this event happened to, I could be wrong on that, Eldrad ported onto one of the Blackstone fortresses and merged with its infinity circuit. And the story becomes a little convoluted at this point, but it's believed that he became the Blackstone Fortress because the Blackstone Fortress immediately turned and fired on a bunch of Necrons that came out of nowhere. And so it's believed that he, in a sense, kind of got control of it. Then Abaddon ported it back into the warp, where the Necrons then destroyed the other one, so I think Abaddon only has the one now. And so some Eldar believe he's dead, because he had a bunch of spirit stones where he broke apart his spirit and gave it to his lieutenants, and half of them went dark. But his apprentice at the time, believes that he's still alive, and he's just inside the Infinity Circuit trying to battle through the forces of chaos and purify the Blackstone Fortress, because it is an Eldar craft, and he's essentially trying to battle to make it an Eldar craft again. I think, personally, just make the Eldrad character his student, with an Eldrad Spirit Stone on him, so he has the same abilities as Eldrad.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I mean...
that way we get rid of this, wait a minute, he's dead, how can he still be playable? That's the one thing I hate about Warhammer Fantasy, is half the characters are dead, but they're still playable.
Yeah, so this guy died, 2,000 years ago, but here he is. What?
Because I was reading the Vampire Count book, and I was reading up on the main characters, and he finally met his tragic end at the Battle of Waterloo in 3200 BC, and I was like, so why can I play him?
Yeah, right. But yeah, that would be a cool way to do Eldrad. I mean, Eldrad is cool, and I mean, heck, I had my Bone Singer with a minor conversion with a spear just to represent Eldrad, so he had all the warrior as an Eldrad model, though, so it counts as. But I think if that, and it won't happen. But if they want to if they want to change things up or do something with Wraithbone and whatnot, game could use the Bone Singer back.
I don't think the Bone Singer ever was actually
a
model.
Was something for it, not like a PDF, add-on, back in the day.
Yeah.
But
yeah, if anything, it was an add-on piece to him, to make him probably a Tech Marine.
Yeah, I mean, there was an old Bone Singer model. It's a cool model. I have it. It's all painted up. I had it painted by Blue Table Painting. They did a good job.
Oh, yeah, the promotional model. I remember that guy.
But it was cool, but it's kind of so, what are the rules? None. Great.
Yeah, well, it was a Games Day promo model.
Yeah, and it's just
if I recall correctly.
It's something like that, or you bought a bundle and you got it. It goes back at
yeah.
Something like that.
You could, I think, also purchase him with I think at one point, I could be wrong about this, but I think at one point he was the 1-year subscription model. You got a White Dwarf 1-year subscription model, you got him.
He was around for a little bit, a decent amount, actually.
Yeah.
Because
I know, Brothers Grimm, you could order him and you could get him.
So it's just, he existed, they never had rules. Most people ran with a Farseer because might as well. But actually,
yeah, it kind of looks like one.
Yeah, Bone Singer was a aspect warrior of the Warp Spider side. The Bone Singer is one of my favorite Eldar things in general, because the idea of this dude just walking around with his bone flute thing would be cool, and he would be the ultimate he should be able to repair or restore, or even maybe give a minor regenerative thing to Wraithguard and Wraithlords. You roll some dice, you get a 6, they get a wound back, or maybe give the Wraithguard, I think the one wound a will be back style roll if he's within 6 inches of them or something. Because you go, nope, I'm putting that arm back on. That would be kind of cool. It's like a supportive. Maybe also have him kind of count as a Spirit Seer for needing one in the area if he's going to stay close. Just something to spice up the HQ choice.
One thing that I would like is if they spiced up the Phoenix Lords just a tad bit, because right now in 5th edition, not sure how they go in 6th edition, but the Imperial Armor one was a boss. It would just not die. And I'm like, wow, I don't get why more people don't use the Phoenix Lord. It's probably, again, because it doesn't have as much synergy as a Wraith, as a Farseer.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of hoping that they give them a little bit more synergy instead of just the, oh yeah, your aspect, because I think they make your aspect warrior troops.
Like something
right
like that, or scoring or something. But
yeah, no, that's it. I think they count as scoring units.
What would be cool is if you take a Phoenix Lord, he takes up an HQ slot. But if you take a Phoenix Lord and you take his aspect, then he would be like a non-force organization slot holder. You know what I mean? So we can still have his Farseer. Like if you worry about taking up space, I don't know. You'd have to play with it. But make it so if you have, let's say turn Dark Avengers, not Dark Avengers, Dark Reapers into two choices, right? Let's say Morgan Ra does that, and you take two compulsory troop choices with Morgan Ra. Now Morgan Ra is no longer a slot holder in HQ, so you can still have your Farseer.
Or anything, like, one cool thing that could possibly be is if they have tactical advantage, where the Phoenix Lord allows you to redeploy like a D3 number of aspect warriors of his type after deployment to represent him going, no, dudes, this is what they're doing, we should do this is the way Azurman taught us.
Yeah, I mean, heck, if they want to try and revamp them, they're making really, really, really expensive squad upgrades to keep them out of the queue. If they really wanted to do something crazy like that, but then you kind of remove the whole troop or scoring thing. But also, the Phoenix Lords are pretty cool.
They are. Like, I just don't see a lot of people using them, yet when I have used one, granted it wasn't the official Codex one, he was rocking it. He was pretty much, if I ever got tabled, he was the last model to go off the field, because he just couldn't die.
Yeah, well, isn't that kind of their shtick also, they're hard to kill? Like that specifically. But
well, they have the Ethereal Warrior. They're like they're practically one of the only dudes that have Ethereal Warrior nowadays.
Yeah. The Morgan Ra is pretty cool. He's still pretty good, but he's not really taking much because you shoot it, whatever. Because he's got an awesome close combat weapon still as well. The Howling Banshee one is alright.
Dinzar?
Yeah, whatever.
Dinzar is like, eh.
The Dire Avenger one is very good.
Azurman?
Yeah, because he's very good.
Yeah, he's really awesome.
The Striking
Fulgrim
one has...
No, not Fulgrim. Fugan is pretty
Fuegan.
cool.
Fuegan is very cool. The problem with Fuegan is he has Feel No Pain, which was really good back when he had it, and is not as good now.
Yeah, Feel No Pain is kind of not that great anymore.
No, so he was really good back when Feel No Pain was like the thing to have, and if they just give him a minor change into survivability, because he's supposed to represent the fact that he's immune to fire, not literally, but like he's the fire dragon's Phoenix Lord. He's like, yeah, I'm walking on lava or in lava, what of it? That's what he's supposed to be representing.
And it's also rumored, and it's also believed that he'll be the last of the Phoenix Lords to fall during the final fight of Chaos.
Yeah, he's technically, in theory, he should be the toughest one to kill.
Yep.
So he should get 3 bolstered rules once for that. The Baharoth, or whatever the Swooping Hog one.
Baharoth, yep.
He's cool looking, and he's not bad. It's just that Swooping Hogs need a bit of an update. They're very cool rules, and I think it'd be even cooler if they're able to have like Vector Strike, to shoot air, to shoot out of the plane. Or if
the Skyfire rule?
Yeah, they should get that, obviously, because that's what they're meant for. They have that in Apocalypse for them. But, or make them have the ability to move like flyers.
That's one thing that I always... Yeah, that would be cool if they gave them the flying rule.
Yeah.
One thing that I thought one of my favorite items was the Crystal Targeting Matrix.
Yeah.
Because it allowed you to, in the movement phase, to shoot your weapon.
Right.
So you could move, shoot, then continue your movement, and you just had to factor in your total distance move to factor in which weapon you can and can't fire. So it allowed these tanks, which, not for nothing, for some odd reason, even though they're higher armor value than a Rhino, are a lot more fragile than a Rhino.
Yeah, for some reason they always blow up.
They always blow up so easily, I never get it. But they're supposed to be able to, the Crystal Targeting Matrix accounted for that. It allowed them to move out of cover, fire, go back into cover. I think they should bring that item back, or if they don't want to make them do that because that's too broken, maybe give the Crystal Targeting Matrix the ability to make their turret weapon have the Skyfire ability.
Yeah. I think targeting matrix maybe work good for Skyfire, but I just think the Swooping Hawks were meant to be anti-aircraft infantry, basically. Should get Skyfire or the ability to move or just move like a flyer. Just be a flyer. A flying, I think the coolest thing would be a non-monster creature flying infantry. I don't know if the guard
that would be really awesome.
That would be really cool, because then they get to intercept, like they're supposed to, with the aircraft, blow them out of the sky with their special abilities, and still have their, like, satchel of destruction that they can drop. Kind of like
oh, yeah.
And, like...
I love the pie plate of destruction.
Yeah, and it's just... They're really cool, but... And especially now with 6th edition having flyers in it and rules for it, they have so much potential to be a really cool thing.
Because there used to be talks of just like in stories of just like planes flying, and then all of a sudden just a hail of laser fire coming down upon them, and then they just see these dudes with wings just descending from the clouds.
Yeah, and Apocalypse has, I don't know if you can still find it on the website, but there was a data sheet that basically represented them darting in and out of dogfights, shooting at planes.
One thing I think that we could basically definitely agree on is the aspect warriors need to be tooled in such a way so that more of them are more considered for games. Because right now, it's primarily the warp spiders and the striking scorpions that and the dire avengers that tend to be the only aspect warriors considered a lot of times.
Let's get serious for a second. Dire avengers, it's so hard to sometimes remember that they're an aspect warrior because it's just like a really good troop choice. So it's like not even taken because they're aspects, it's taken because they're great troop choices.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, they made them the troop choice because they're like, wait a minute, if we only make their civilians their only troop choice, then how do they do missions off the craft world? So they made the Dire Avengers a troop choice. Yeah. To represent the infantry of the Aspect Warrior army. So they're supposed to be the ones that have a lot on the field.
And it makes sense, and they do a very good job at it. Now, you have Warp Spiders who, if they're taken, they're kind of popular. If you take, and you take them, they always have very good value for anti-infantry, maybe even like getting side or rear armor shots on a tank.
Yeah.
I've seen Howling Banshees a lot in conjunction with Farseer with Doom. And they're really good for just taking out your heavy infantry because they're all, heavy infantry. They're elite infantry killers. Where the striking scorpions are the opposite side of that coin. They go, that's a horde, I got this. It really depends on what your army is lacking. You'll see one or the other in the army. Very seldom you see the two. And another one that people tend to take are fire dragons because kind of like, that's a tank, that's cute.
Well, let's be honest, nowadays, because of the new tank rules, they're not as needed anymore.
Well, tanks are survivable more than they were. So, if you think about it.
But you could get a bunch of things, but I'm just saying off of argument, you could get a bunch of things that can glance detect tanks now. So like the fire dragons aren't like key anymore to taking down tanks for them.
I still have seen some lists on the internet when looking up lists for stuff where fire dragons.
Yeah, oh no, I agree. The fire dragons are still taken because like they're awesome. They're a squad of melta-guns.
Yeah. And to be honest, they're really good. And I don't like relying on glancing vehicles to death because I'm terrible at doing that. I'm talking about hurting the vehicle. Listen, all right, I shot a Rhino for 4 rounds straight and couldn't even penetrate the side armor. I couldn't hurt it, period. For 4
now, why can't you play like that when my Eldar are on the field?
Because I was shooting a Rhino. They're indestructible, apparently.
Yes, it's sad. Rhinos and like chimeras are like unbreakable.
Yeah.
But then you go with the Eldar grav tanks that are like literally 2 points of armor higher. They're like pop, pop, pop. They're like popcorn.
Yeah, and also fire dragons. They have the XX has like that like flamer template thing, which is meh. Okay.
Yeah, the dragon flame.
It works on if you have a certain setup, but really, the reason I love fire dragons is not their tank killing. It's that's a monstrous creature, it's dead now. Oh, that's heavy infantry. Like, they're the ultimate, if it's infantry, I can kill it, because I got melta-gun squad.
Yep. Oh, the best is when people try to tank shock them. They're like, how cute, you're tank shocking the dudes armed with melt-a-bombs.
Yeah, and melt the guns. It's like, you're tank shocking the anti-tank unit. What's wrong with you?
I no joke, guys. I was playing in one game, and one dude like tank shocked with 3 rhinos at a squad of fire dragons, and the fire dragons were just like, we're gonna death their glory. Pop! Oh look, we immobilized them because we have 2d6.
Exactly. Basically, it's like, hey look, we destroyed that. It's done. They're really cool. I like fire dragons a lot. That color scheme, I like because it's so out there. It's the shiny.
Eldar are great with that. That's probably one of the best things about Eldar is, like, if you don't want to get a very static looking army and just feel like, I'm painting blue for the 50th time again, you play Eldar because they have so many different color schemes, and within that there's ultimately different variants of color schemes because, like, you could have 2 squads of Dire Avengers. You can change up the blue and the white on them to represent different shrines within that craft world. It's glorious, the painting possibilities with them.
If you don't like a uniform-looking army, then you'll like Eldar. They're basically the Skittles of the army world. I mean, that's why some people don't like them. It's just, I need uniformity in an army and I can't get them. But, you know, that seems neither here nor there. So, that's pretty cool. Speaking of, like, because we're talking about fluff and stuff like that, I got a little gripe about the Tau fluff these days.
Okay.
And it's not so much even like, it's got some dark overtones, which is whatever. It's 40K, there's dark overtones everywhere.
Yeah.
But it says when the Ethereal could order anybody to commit suicide and will do it on the spot. That just seems too, like, persuasive in my book, personally. Yeah, cause it's to represent, like, the absolute authority of the Ethereal. They wouldn't, you know, obviously. But the idea is that their word is so absolute that no matter what they say, the Tau will follow. Which I don't have a problem with, that idea. But it's just like, yeah, they commit suicide, whatever. And I kind of get it, you know, they're on the eastern fringe, they represent an east, you know, they have Asiatic themes, I get it, what they're going for. But, that's a little weird. And it's not even the fluff problem, because the Tau, I'm going to say this still, are nice guys.
Yeah.
Tau send probes and go, hey, we have pizza. Do you want some pizza? If you don't want some pizza, we're burning your colony. If you do want some pizza, you're
well, here's the pizza.
Exactly. But
cake or death.
Yeah, basically. But apparently people had a problem with the nice guy nature of the Tau. So they tried to make it a bit more ruthless, but it's still ultimately a nice guy nature. And it's just like, the one thing, like, my gripe is trying to make the Tau have more dark overtones than they need in certain areas. What I found kind of cool is, Farsight, one of my favorite Tau, is the only Tau in recorded history to basically resist ethereal, like, presence. He doesn't obey them without question. Clearly, he's got his own enclave. And there was a disciple of his who was a commander who beat the Imperial Guard so bad. Like, in the fluff, I forget the exact word. It's basically like he spanked them so bad that they went crying home to nobody because he spanked them that bad. That he beat them so bad that the Ethereal demanded him to come back to like the homeworld for trials for being too ruthless. Which I found kind of funny. It's like, listen, dude, you schooled them too much. You got to back up.
Don't beat them up so badly.
You want to be able to
beat them up too badly.
You know, they're our neighbors. You got to be polite.
You got to be polite when you're shooting down their things.
Yeah, so I found that
one thing. Speaking of with the Tau, for those who haven't heard, remember when we were kind of talking about why don't they just release all the Imperial armors and all that? Well, I did talk to Forge World asking about Volume 3 of the Imperial Armor, which is the Tau book, and they're hoping within the next 2 months to have the second edition of Imperial Armor Volume 3 out and available.
Which is pretty cool.
Which is pretty awesome. I might pick it up just for the BFG stuff in it.
Yes.
Because yes, if anyone who's wondering who's been trying to hunt down the official rules that Forge World crafted, they're in Imperial Armor Volume 3.
Yes.
Which I wonder if they'll revamp those as well, if they're just going to leave those the same.
I don't.
I'll be ticked if they take them out completely.
You know, they should still be there. I mean, there's no reason.
Well, actually, I think that when I talked about it, I mentioned that's why I wanted the book was for the BFG rules, and they didn't say, unfortunately, they're taking them out.
Yeah, I don't think they'll take it out in another edition. That's like, I mean, that's almost changing the book completely.
Yeah. And plus, they still sell the models.
Yeah.
Hopefully, maybe this time they'll bring the troop transports back, because the town need their own transport models.
Yes. And any Tau players who are interested in seeing how things go together, or seeing a little bit of, like, getting inspired for painting Tau, there's a channel out there that I want to give a little shout out to. He's got plenty of subscribers. It's Templars Crusade 01. He started off as a Black Templars player. He dabbled. He also has a pre-Heresy Imperial Fist. He had pre-Heresy Raven Guard, but traded them for more Tau stuff. He's making Tau. He's very enthusiastic, a very good painter, and a very good model builder. He's all about cutting it and even heating up resin to position stuff in his own way. And he shows you that a little bit here and there in terms of showing you the model. And he just recently has a Tau-tastic series. He's calling it Tau-tastic. And one of them, he has a multiple video series of building the Riptide. So he shows you basically how the Riptide goes together. And he's working on an Orca right now, which he got pre-assembled and magnetized. He's going to show you how that painting that goes, and he gives you a look at everything he does. It's a pretty good channel to check out if you're interested in how does that Riptide go together, and seeing it actually happen. And he's going to probably do that with more stuff. So I encourage any Tau player to check him out.
Nice.
And
on that note, I think we'll turn it in.
Yes, but I got two things.
Okay.
Firstly, it's a question. Because I saw it on Facebook, and then I saw it on Bell of All Souls via comic, about Magic the Gathering. There's two players. Those who played it, there's two people, those who played it and liars. So I'm curious, how many people have at least played at one point in their life Magic the Gathering? Because I know I have. And I know a lot of people.
We all have.
It's almost like
all of the Fearless have played Magic at one point.
Yeah, and I'm wondering how many Fearless gamers either play it or have played it, because I think it's a high number. It's like it's just like it's one of those games that you just play, or at least tried it for some reason. And secondly, I want to give a little shout out to a project that's online that is from Palladium Books. Palladium Books makes role-playing books. They made a Robotech RPG. They have a project, and it's up on Kickstarter. This like Kickstarter for the Robotech RPG Tactics. It's very similar in the way that it can supplement the RPG book or be played standalone like Battletech, and the turn structure is similar to Battletech a little bit. But it uses command cards, kind of reminiscent of War Machine, but they're very, I want to say they're even more basic and easier to understand than the basic War Machine card, which, not that they're hard, it's just that this is really, streamlined. And you can fund the project. The project ends May 20th. And if you're a fan of Robotech, I encourage checking out. The models look great. The little gameplay video looks like it's a lot of fun. It's fast-paced. And like I said, it just looks cool. And if you're worried about, if you're going to have enough funding, it already met its goal. It's making stretch goals now. So it's definitely coming out. It's slated to come out sometime in December, since it met its goal. Mm-hmm. And it's just cool. It's the first Robotech war, so it's Entradi versus human. And you got the Veritech Valkyries in there, which are transformable fighters. And the cool thing is, you're going to get 3 models for every one fighter, because it represents fighter, guardian, and battleoid mode. Mm-hmm. So even though you're getting 3 models, it's for one dude only, which is cool. They include it in there so you can play all 3 modes, instead of having to buy like 3 kits. So,
and I wonder now how many comments we're going to get yelling at you that it's called Macross.
Yeah, probably. It's the Macross Saga of the Robotech universe. It's the first Robotech war. But it looks pretty cool. It looks pretty solid. When you read the description, you can look at it. There's different levels you can back it at. I personally have backed it. So I'm looking forward to it coming out. And I figure it's got plenty of support already, but if anybody has a remote interest in Robotech, I encourage you checking it out, especially if you're a war gamer, because it looks like one of those war games that should do well, because the rules don't seem that convoluted. Granted, they showed you a kind of a watered-down version, like a beginner's thing, but it still seemed really easy. And it's set in 1/285th scale, because these are big things. So if you're thinking about getting into it, terrain size would be stuff kind of like Battletech size, maybe even Flames of War size, just remember how big these things are. That style. Clearly a 40K building would be too big for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
And
that's that.
okay, and on that note, thank you all for listening, and until next time, Fearless Gamers, this is Matt the Vet.
This is James the Wildcard.
Saying take care.
Peace.